I still remember the look on my mother's face when she realized the entire courtroom had gone silent after I played the recording she had spent 12 years praying nobody would ever hear. For over a decade, my parents had told everyone I was dramatic, lazy, and desperate for attention. They insisted I was exaggerating my condition and claimed I had somehow convinced doctors I needed a wheelchair. Family members believed them. Friends disappeared. Even strangers treated me like I was some kind of fraud. But the truth was far worse than anyone imagined, because the people accusing me of faking my disability were the same people responsible for putting me in that wheelchair in the first place. And when their lies finally collapsed, they lost everything. Was I wrong for exposing them after all those years? Tell me honestly, because sometimes I still wonder if I should have kept the secret buried. My name is Emily, and I'm 34 years old now. I live alone with my golden retriever Daisy, and despite everything that happened, I genuinely love my life. But getting here took years of pain, betrayal, and loneliness. Growing up, I always wanted my parents to love me the way I saw other parents love their children. My mother, Susan, cared deeply about appearances. Everything in her life had to look perfect. My father, Richard, worshipped my mother and never questioned anything she said. To the outside world, they were respected people. Dad owned a construction company, and Mom volunteered at church events and community organizations. People thought they were generous and loving. But inside our house, things were different. I was 13 when my younger brother Jake started getting into trouble. He was reckless and spoiled. My parents never held him accountable for anything. If he broke something, it was somehow my fault. If he failed a class, Mom said his teachers were unfair. Jake loved motorcycles, even though he wasn't old enough to ride them. One afternoon, while our parents were away, he convinced me to go with him to an abandoned lot where he wanted to practice. I was nervous and kept telling him we should go home. Then everything changed. Jake lost control. I still remember screaming. I remember the sound of metal scraping against concrete. I remember the pains. And I remember waking up in the hospital. The doctors explained that I had suffered severe spinal injuries. They couldn't promise whether I would walk again. I was terrified. I was only 13 years old. But instead of comforting me, my parents seemed angry. At first, I didn't understand why. Then I overheard them arguing in the hallway. My mother whispered, "Nobody can know Jake was driving." Dad replied, "What else can we do? It'll ruin his future." That sentence changed my life. It'll ruin his future. Not her life. Not her spine. Not her dreams. His future. They told everyone I had fallen while riding a bike alone. They forced Jake to stick to the story. And because I loved my brother and because I was scared, I agreed. I thought they were protecting our family. I thought eventually they'd appreciate my sacrifice. Instead, they turned me into the villain. Months passed and my rehabilitation became difficult. I struggled physically and emotionally. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I got frustrated. My mother hated that. "Stop acting like your life is over," she'd snap. "You're milking this. Other people have real problems." As years went by, doctors confirmed that my condition would likely be permanent. I needed a wheelchair most of the time. Instead of supporting me, my parents became embarrassed by me. Whenever relatives visited, Mom would complain about how expensive I was. She'd say things like, "Emily refuses to help herself," or "she's become dependent." The worst part was watching Jake grow up guilt-free. My brother became the golden child. He went to college, got married, started working for Dad's company. Meanwhile, I battled chronic pain every day. People believed my parents. Even extended family questioned me. My aunt once asked if I had considered trying harder. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and said nothing. By the time I was 25, I had cut contact with most relatives because I couldn't stand being judged. My parents would tell everyone I exaggerated my condition to avoid responsibility. They acted like I enjoyed being in a wheelchair. Who enjoys waking up in pain? Who enjoys losing friends because people think you're lying? Who enjoys watching life pass by while others blame you for circumstances beyond your control? I tried building a life anyway. I earned my degree online. I found work as a graphic designer. I adopted Daisy. Slowly, I created peace for myself. But my parents never stopped. Every holiday became torture. Mom would make comments like, "Miracles happen when people want them badly enough." Dad would joke, "Maybe one day Emily will surprise us and stand up." Everyone laughed. I didn't. Then something happened that changed everything. Jake called me one night. He sounded drunk. He was crying. And for the first time in 20 years, I heard guilt in his voice. "I'm sorry, Em." "What?" "I'm sorry." I sat frozen. He admitted he'd been carrying the truth his entire life. He confessed that Mom and Dad had forced him to stay quiet. He said he'd tried drinking away the guilt. His marriage was failing. He couldn't live with himself anymore. I asked why he was telling me now. And then he said something I never expected. "Mom's telling people you're faking everything." I laughed bitterly. "She's been doing that for years." "No, Emily, I mean she's telling everyone you're completely making it up. She's saying doctors don't know what's wrong with you and you enjoy the attention." Something inside me broke. Because despite everything, I had never imagined she'd go that far. A week later, I discovered she had been posting online in support groups for parents of attention-seeking adult children. She described me without using my name. Hundreds of strangers praised her for her patience. They called her brave. They called me manipulative. I sat in my apartment crying for hours. And then Jake came over. He brought something. An old phone. He explained that after the accident, Dad had made several calls while they waited for the ambulance. Jake had accidentally recorded one of them because he had been filming himself riding before the crash. The phone survived. And nobody knew. My hands trembled as I listened. Dad's voice. Mom crying. Dad saying Jake's okay. Mom asking what about Emily. Then silence. And then the words I would never forget. "If people find out Jake caused this, his future is over. We'll say she crashed her bike." I couldn't breathe. For 20 years I had questioned my memories. For 20 years they convinced me I misunderstood things. And suddenly, there it was. Proof. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and think about what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have stayed silent and protected your family? Or would you have exposed the people who destroyed your life and then blamed you for it? Let me know what you would have done, because I honestly wrestled with that decision for months. Part of me wanted revenge. Another part just wanted peace. But then my mother crossed a line I couldn't forgive. She called my employer. She told them she suspected I was lying about my disability and collecting sympathy. Thankfully, my boss knew me and informed me immediately. That was it. I was done. I hired an attorney. Not because I wanted money. Because I wanted the truth. The lawsuit wasn't about the accident. It was about decades of defamation. False statements, emotional damage, and harassment. My parents laughed when they received the papers. Mom actually called me. "You're suing your own parents. You ruined my life." "No, Emily, your negativity ruined your life." Dad chimed in. "You always loved attention." I hung up. Months later, depositions began. And that's when everything fell apart. Jake testified. Under oath. He told the truth. My parents denied everything. Until my lawyer played the recording. The room went silent. Mom started crying. Dad looked like someone had punched him. Neither of them expected evidence. But that wasn't all. Jake produced old journals where Mom had written about protecting his future. Family members who once doubted me began apologizing. My aunt cried. My cousins reached out. People who ignored me for years suddenly understood. But I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. I just wanted acknowledgement. The judge eventually ruled in my favor. The settlement wasn't enormous, but it didn't matter. The truth mattered. News spread through our town. Dad's business lost clients. Mom stopped volunteering because people whispered behind her back. Jake entered therapy and eventually rebuilt his marriage. As for me, I blocked my parents. Completely. No more holidays. No more guilt. No more pretending. 6 months later, something unexpected happened. My father showed up at my apartment. Older, smaller somehow. He cried. I'd never seen him cry. He admitted he had failed me. He admitted Mom controlled everything and he chose the easy path. Then he asked if I could forgive him. I told him forgiveness wasn't the same as trust. And trust was gone. He nodded. He understood. That was the last time I saw him. A year later, I learned my parents had separated. Apparently, Dad blamed Mom for everything. Mom blamed everyone else. Neither one ever truly accepted responsibility. And maybe that's okay. Because I finally stopped waiting for apologies. I started traveling. I joined support groups. I met amazing people. I learned that being disabled didn't mean being broken. And most importantly, I stopped feeling ashamed. Because the shame never belonged to me. It belonged to the people who sacrificed their daughter to protect appearances. Sometimes I think about 13-year-old Emily lying in that hospital bed. She thought her parents would choose her. They didn't. But eventually I chose myself. And that changed everything. Today my life isn't perfect. I still live with pain. I still have difficult days. But I laugh. I have friends who love me. I have Daisy, who greets me like I'm the greatest person alive. And every morning when I look in the mirror, I see someone who survived betrayal and still found happiness. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's this: family doesn't automatically deserve endless chances. Love without respect becomes abuse, and protecting people who hurt you only teaches them that they can keep hurting you. So no, I don't regret telling the truth anymore. Secrets protect abusers. Truth protects survivors. And if anyone watching this is carrying a burden that never belonged to them, I hope you remember that you deserve peace too. If you were on my side, make sure to like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this because trust me, life can be stranger than fiction. And I want to hear your final thoughts on this whole mess down in the comments section. Would you have exposed them or would you have stayed silent? Thank you for listening to my story. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you all in the next story.